Hello out there. My name is Laolu Akonde, and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for today entitled Gumi's Insult Upon Injury. Insecurity is an ongoing injury in Nigeria, and one man is unrelentingly adding insult to it. His name is Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, and he's talking again with his infested idea of negotiating and rehabilitating gruesome murderers. Before now, on the strength of his careless and irresponsible comments about terrorism and banditry in Nigeria, Gumi was denied access to Saudi Arabia. But the man is talking nonsense whenever he pleases here at home. Imagine. Now, let's review two things that he has said recently. First, Gumi is denying allegations that he is sympathetic to bandits and terrorist groups. Secondly, he has renewed his call for negotiation and amnesty for armed groups operating across parts of the country. I'm quoting now. They said they fear when they lay down arms, they will be pursued and arrested. So give them amnesty so that they don't need to fear putting down their arms, unquote. Now, at this point, we must ask ourselves a very important question. Who exactly are we supposed to be negotiating with? Because what we are witnessing today in Nigeria has gone far beyond ordinary criminality. This is organized violence. This is mass abduction. This is terrorism. It is the normalization of bloodshed in all of its raw but grisly dimensions. Now, about the same time Gumi is saying all of this, there's a report by the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom that there is an estimated 30,000 armed Fulani militants believed to be operating across Nigeria, spreading from the northwest to the middle belt and now increasingly into southern Nigeria. And whether you agree or not with that report, one thing is undeniable. We are dealing with a deeply insidious and dangerous security crisis. School children are being kidnapped. Villages are being invaded. Families are being wiped out. People are being abducted on highways and byways, and there is a palpable fear around the whole place. In fact, only recently we watched in horror after a viral video allegedly showed the beheading of Mr. Michael Oyedokun, an innocent man, a maths teacher abducted during the attack on schools in Oriere local government area around Ogbomoso in Oyo State. That footage is circulating openly, shocking, despicable, gruesome, evil. And now, Sheikh Gumi is talking about negotiating with those folks. And this is exactly why the idea of repeatedly negotiating with bandits has become such a very deeply uncomfortable, unnerving, and capable of a fearful and rapid undoing of our sense of decent community and orderly society. Because how do you continue trying to understand people who kidnap children, slaughter innocent citizens like animals, and post these executions online wantonly without any remorse? How do we negotiate with people who have become so brazen about violence? In fact, this is precisely why Gumi's position on this matter now appears deeply illogical and disturbingly inhuman. We must ask, whose interest is Gumi protecting? Which agenda is Gumi pushing? We cannot continue bending over backwards to rationalize barbarity while innocent people continue to die. Yes, we want peace, but justice matters also. Indeed, justice is the first condition of humanity. That is quoting elder statesman and Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka. And so let's call Gumi out properly, and all those in and outside government, including governors who are toying with this idea, pushing this idea of negotiation with these evildoers. If we are not careful, we may gradually begin to normalize terror simply because it has persisted for too long. What we hold ourselves as leaders and as people is to organize our country effectively and efficiently. We don't need to pander to these notorious evildoers. And this is where comparison with the Niger Delta militancy becomes completely misplaced, like some people are doing. Because while the Niger Delta crisis largely centered around oil infrastructure and resource control agitation, what we are seeing today continuously and increasingly is about widespread kidnapping, killings of civilians, attacking innocent and vulnerable people and communities. The two situations are not moral equivalents at all. And so we must tell Gumi and people like him, as calmly as we can, please, if you don't have anything better to say about the crippling insecurity in Nigeria, then have the decency to remain silent. Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, stop adding insult to Nigeria's injury. And there you have it. Inside Sources goes full blast right after this. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today I'm leading the show with a conversation with the newly nominated presidential candidate of the AAC, Mr. Omoyele Sowore. And I'm going to start the conversation with why is it that he's running for president. So again, welcome, Mr. Sowore, to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much for having me. And,
excellent.
Happy Salah holidays. Right?
Exactly, happy Salah to all our people.
Yes.
So, I mean, you've come a long way. Yes. You know, I've been following your activism even as late 80s, early 90s when I was a reporter myself.
Yes.
And I listened to your recent interview where you were talking about what had happened to MKO Chief Abiola at Unilag in 1992. So I wanted to ask you that based on the encounters and the experiences that you've had with quite a number of these Nigerian leaders, the political elite, does that, I mean, your experience with them, your encounters, did it have anything to do, or does it have anything to do with why you decided that, look, I'm going to be running for president myself?
No, it is very interesting. The encounters I had are twofold with the leaders. One was through social studies and history, both in primary and secondary school. Told that these guys are some of the greatest guys. And then you go to meet them through the university interface, where we had to lead protests against the people they said were great guys. To us in primary school and secondary school history books. So I then met there's an example I use a lot these days. It was in 1984, and my father brought a calendar, what they call almanac, to the house, and it's my job to put it on the wall. Okay. And it had all the 19 military administrators. And what the first thing you do is to cram all these names, because they're going to come out in your social studies or government classes. That was in class 3 and I remember the Niger State, because we used to ask ourselves, is this guy Nigerian or not? David Mack.
Oh, okay.
He was military administrator of Niger State, 1984. And the other day I'm looking at it and said, I had to cram and memorize this guy's name as the state governor, military administrator.
That was 84.
1984.
1984?
Yes. And I am here, 2026, chairman of a political party. He's still chairman of a political party.
That's a very interesting point.
It's a very interesting point. So I've had interesting, both historical and physical interfaces with this guy. So we're talking about Abiola earlier. We did not support Abiola in between 1990, when Buhari and Babangida started tinkering with transition. I think it was 1990 that Mandela came to the university around that period.
Around that time, probably.
Yes. So we had an event for him at the University Auditorium, Unilag Auditorium, where students who wanted to participate, because everybody wanted to touch Mandela and Winnie Mandela. And here we are. Abiola comes with a limousine, Mercedes-Benz limousine, came late. and he was trying to wangle his way through to him. Somebody just said, Abiola, international thief. And we just rushed at him, and somebody took his cap, his hat, and he ran back inside his car and drove off. So I've met Atiku before at his mansion in Potomac.
In Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Was he when he was vice president?
He was vice president. Yes. And I was asked to interview him by the news magazine.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was moonlighting for the news magazine, and Bayo Nonoga was my editor.
Okay.
So he said, why don't you go to Atiku's house? And I went to Atiku, saw this mansion in Potomac. And someone was Johnny, what are you doing with the mansion in Potomac, DC?
Did you ask him?
I asked him, yes. And I asked him a bunch of questions, including the fact that there were rumors that he participated in the killing of Bola Ige.
Okay.
And they had a table set up for.
So now you are talking of after 1999. Huh?
Yeah, this is around 2006 or thereabout. Before, I think it was planning for office.
Wrong.
Yes, and I was trying to set up Sowore reporters at that time. I was in, and he looked at me, and the wife, Jennifer, came and said, "Why do you allow this guy to come and be rubbishing you?" He said,
he said that.
Yes, and I said to her,
"But they are divorced now."
Yes. I said to her, "You don't know what you're saying." And she started right there, just putting back the food
that they had prepared for you. Now, I'm not going to entertain this guy.
And of course, I wasn't going to eat their food anyways, because I know that after that interview, I could get poisoned. So, and even if I wasn't going to get poisoned, I just have a general disdain for all this. It's the same thing with, so it was a period that we found a bunch of mansions in Potomac, Ojus, Okalu, Alamaseya, all of them were buying mansions in Potomac in those days. And
because of the proximity apparently to Washington, D.C.
They were just laundering money.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the first period they started laundering money. And that's how Sowore reporters started. And I was traveling to Nigeria through Benin Republic. Another
story.
Yes, another story. And the customs stopped us and we were filming them secretly. Yeah, because I was excited. They were demanding for money. And this guy shows up. Tall guy, It turns out to be Obasanjo's son.
Segun Obasanjo.
It's not Segun.
Okay. Okay. What is
this person? This very bulky guy.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and says, "Oh, customs, why are you holding these guys?" And I said, "Who are you talking to? Who are guys?" Because I was, I look small compared to him.
Was he in uniform?
No.
It was just all right.
I think it was. It turns out that we had traveled on Air France.
Okay. So,
and then he looked at it because he was writing his name down on the exercise book, and I looked at it. I said, "This is Obasanjo's son." Now, at that time, we were just reading a story about the discovery of a house bought by Estella Obasanjo and everybody thought it was his house, but it turns out to be his younger brother's house.
Right.
And we corrected, and I said, "Oh, Mr. Obasanjo, Benga Obasanjo."
Benga, yeah.
Yes. I said, "Well, you shouldn't have talked to us like that." He said, "See, the Nigerians," and then he looked at his book and also saw that that was my name there. He said, "Are you not the guy with the Lendo report?" And I said, "Yes." So you guys are so horrible. You're writing terrible things about my dad. And it was a period of thought time. So we finished from there, and I was leaving, and I went to the Nigerian side of the road, and the security drove, with plenty of dust. You know how all these security people behave as if they are also personally your enemy. And then he stopped suddenly, and he said, "Do you want to come with me to Nigeria?" I said, "We're already in Nigeria." I said, "Lagos." I said, "Well, I'm not sure, but if we can talk, I would like to hear your opinion about a few things." And then he took me in this SUV. We drove all the way to Lagos, and it was as if I threw my hand into his throat. He was just spilling out stuff that I didn't know about his dad, about El Rufai, Jimmy Lawal, and so I'm telling you experiences I've had that made me to decide that, oh wow, these guys they're just not for the kind of leadership that care about the Nigerian people. It's about them. It was there. When we got to Lagos, he said, "Oh, let me put you up at Sheraton Hotel so I can bring documentation to you about some senators I wanted to know." I said, "What is it?" And he said to me, I'm not sure if I'm the father of my children.
Wow.
And I said,
okay, yeah, I think that became a big.
I was like, what? I said, I think my father fathered my children.
I remember that story.
And I was like, I have enough of the story. And I never stayed. I just said, as soon as it dropped me, I went to another hotel that night, slept there, put up the story, sent it to Bayo and Babafemi Ojudu. When they read the interview, they said, the day we published the interview, we are not coming to work for a week. And that was how that chapter ended. And I then started Star Reporters, which exposed me to a lot more of these guys in their realest and rawest form.
There has been a lot of the experiences that some of us, including yourself, because now you are running for president, that we've had, and just like you said, Mark was governor in 1984.
Yes,
David
Mark.
Is still David Mark. Is still
the chairman of ADC.
What do you think it will take to actually get these people? Because it's an important question. Yeah. Is that part of the reason why you decided that, look, I have to get into this thing?
That's partly it, but most importantly, I was part of those who would accept that I was part of a fundamental mistake in 1999. Like after all these years, 10 solid years of struggle on the street, very risky, dangerous, and some of the deadliest, internecine and physical war between us and the military. How I dropped on the streets and we walked away from it.
Yeah.
So it was for me, I thought if we had started contesting for power since 1999 at least.
Yeah.
We would have gotten to a point where we have a solid political party. We would have had to be able to show to Nigerian people our ability to govern the country properly. And I felt that in 1999, if Gani had contested against Obasanjo, he likely would have won.
Yeah, but I think his own party started,
No, his party started in 1994.
Oh, yeah, even before
anybody started his party when nobody.
But he wasn't on the ballot in 1999.
He decided, Gani was the one who told us that we can't trust the military, don't let us participate. If he had wanted to participate, Lisa Agbakoba advised us to participate. But Gani said no. Yeah. This process is not transparent, you can't trust it, don't participate. By the time you realize, he then participated in 2003. By then, these guys had perfected, consolidated their hold, and there was complete state capture. Because by 2003, Obasanjo had not only captured all the states, had captured the Southwest, where people said it was the last bastion of resistance against him. So Gani Fahimi had no chance. In fact, Gani Fahimi could not campaign in Ondo State. I remember some of our colleagues, I wasn't in Nigeria then, said even at a place called Ajibandele or so, on their way to Akure or Ajibandele, people attacked him for not sharing money with them. Like, go and sit down. So all the,
and that's a problem, Sowore.
Yes. So it was a problem of conscience, and it's still here now. And by the way, I have come to a conclusion that Nigerians are on the conservative spectrum of political thought. They're more conservative. If Nigeria were to be US, it will be 90% Republicans. An average Nigerian is very conservative.
In terms of very laid back.
They're not laid back. They actually have conviction, but their conviction is not a progressive one.
Well, that's
their conviction that, and it's driven by or shaped by culture, tradition, religion,
and ethnicity.
So, and an average ethnocentric Nigeria believes in kings more than they believe in democracy.
Because it's a very important question because, so eventually somebody like Gani got into the race.
Yes.
But, this experience that you just shared now, that they were asking him money.
Yeah, they were asking for money.
Somebody of that stature, somebody that was...
They were also mocking him,
Wow.
Just like they do to me today, when I ran in 2018, they started by asking me to go and cut my hair, that I had a mohawk. you know. And I was born with a mohawk. This is
Well,
how my hair has always been. If you see my baby
well,
pictures,
that won't be your generation people asking you. Be
no,
younger people.
now everybody wants to cut their hair like me. You know, I was just ahead of my time. They will complain about even my cowrie shells. You know, like, oh, well, you know, that's how would you be wearing cowries? Just devilish. You know, not knowing that this was real money.
It used to be money.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
this is
correct.
money, and this is our culture. So, and anybody that abandons their culture cannot find real progress in their political life. Honestly, everything around us is borrowed. You know, when we want to practice socialism, we took it from somewhere else. We want to practice democracy, we borrowed it from some. We want to practice an economic system, we borrowed half here, half here. You know, even the people who are practicing them don't recognize the one we do here. So that's very important to understand that he was mocked, and until Ghani, it was when Ghani died that Nigerians in large numbers started praising him. Yes.
Which is quite
It was quite sad.
very sad.
But when he was around, but I thought that in 1999, I think if Ghani had run against Obasanjo,
He would have had a better chance.
He would have had a better chance.
Because
He shouldn't have made that mistake.
Yeah.
You know.
Because by 2003, the system has been sufficiently corrupted.
Corrupted, they had already captured.
So, how do you? I want you to talk a bit about some of the things that you want to do. You know, now that your party has given you the nomination again, but I wanted you to also share your experience. So, how do you intend to penetrate? You know, that political culture. You know,
so the advantage
and break it.
The advantage with this political culture is the youth population. They don't subscribe to that conservative political culture.
Okay.
They have somehow been able to break out of that conservatism because, you know, they are more open-minded. You know, they are more internationalized because internet has opened their eyes, you know, and helped them to engage with cultures that they probably would never have seen if internet wasn't there. So the youth is there, but the problem is still that, you know, to have very huge youth population is not the same thing as having cautious, radically positive-minded, you know, critical thinkers amongst youth. That would have not been a problem if the education system was what it used to be. The university was supposed to be the place where the youth of today will be radicalizing. Student unions and organizations.
All of that is gone.
But all of that, they captured that a long time ago. You can't. People like me don't even get invited to campuses to speak anymore. You know, nowadays, if you are a student union leader and you have not invited Fela to come and play on your campus, I mean, at the student union week, you are not ready. If you are not bought Ghani, to come and do a symposium or a rally, you are not. But today, it is easier to get MC Oluoma into the University of Lagos than for even a department to invite me. If they did, they will make sure that it's not announced or the students are not allowed to be aware of it, to come near. You know, that's my own alma mater, the University of Lagos.
Look at that.
Yes.
Look at that.
So, but assuming that we're able to penetrate those places, cross-fertilization of ideas would have been happening.
So what's your plan then? You know, how do you, because I see that, you know, you are also the candidate in 2023. How do you intend to break through?
No. So
especially with the competition of these quote unquote,
this. No, it's actually easier to break through now because the means of campaigning has changed. The ways through which you can reach the populace has changed. You know, you'll still find the old people talking about grassroots. They have forgotten that the real grassroots now is an app called TikTok. Yes. And the reason why TikTok is, you know, it grants everybody the opportunity to speak the language they want. It's not like Twitter. Twitter is restrictive in the sense that, if you write something on Twitter, somebody's correcting you and it's toxic and, you know, everybody's trying to outdo each other. But TikTok allows, you know, I went on TikTok one day and this woman was calling me and she was frying akara in Osun State and on her TikTok and saying, you know, see my akara. And also because I think the incentivization of participation, you know, people get paid. You know, but I've met probably a lot more grassrooted, politically conscious people on TikTok. So internet or social media in general is helpful. But we face restrictions here though that probably you won't face in the US. For instance, Facebook is tyranny in Nigeria. Anything you say, they just put you in jail. what they call Facebook jail. So
what was that? What do you mean by that?
where they ban your account or shadow ban
okay.
you.
Okay.
You know, those tyrannical. I was taken to court in this
Based
country
on,
because they wanted Facebook to take down my post, and Facebook actually sided with the federal government in court. In fact, it was the first time I knew that Facebook had lawyers in Nigeria.
Yeah, I think at the point they were compared to open offices.
Yes.
So, but the other challenge, Sowore, is that the people on the TikTok, on Twitter, they don't get to register and they don't get to vote.
No, but those platforms are also being used to mobilize for voters. In 2018, our party was the first to start online registration. Everybody was mocking us, like, and it turns out that in 2022, when parties were asked to submit party
registration online,
we printed our own and they said it was the most complete.
That was what
that was what INEC told us 2022. So we then were curious to get that of APC. They said APC doesn't have. When we were 2022. When we wanted to cry out, the INEC, this is now I've said this several times, went and used the voters register to help APC to create a membership register, and that was what they then presented. But this time around, they claim that by January, I also caught them on their website that they don't have a means to register. But somehow within January and now, they claim to have 10 million people. Having 10 million people register on the website between January and May in Nigeria, it's fraud of gigantic proportion. But they do it regardless. But we know it, and but I think digital, spaces are going to transform a lot of public participation.
Okay.
What I cannot speak for is cynicism. A lot of Nigerians are cynical about the political process. Even though there's excitement around it, I've never seen what excites Nigerians more than elections and soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, certainly soccer.
Yes, certainly soccer, but elections also.
I agree that
an excitement spectrum.
Yeah, but the problem is that you don't see that excitement at the polling booth.
Yes, because our voting system is cumbersome. For instance, if I were not to be a presidential candidate, there's nothing that will make me travel back to Ondo State to go and vote for someone. You understand? But it's because I'm a presidential candidate. So voting is then left, in a very cumbersome way for people who are there. And those ones, they know themselves. They know how. But assuming that we have a transparent process of voting where the moment I have any form of ID card, I can vote, having informed INEC in advance.
Any form of legitimate
ID. And ID could be driver's license, NIN, your international passport. One of the biggest scams that takes INEC's budget to the highest level is those plastics they call the voter's card.
PVC.
You don't need it. What are you printing PVCs for? Nobody ever uses them after we finish voting. Maybe except you're getting on an aircraft and you can't find any other ID. Driver's license and any other ID card should be adequate for anyone. Because those are biometrically empowered ID cards. So they should get rid of that. And we should be able to say, few days to election, go online and choose where I want to vote. If where I want to vote has too many voters registered already, you just tell me 50, maybe 5 miles radius, and it will be there. I'll just click and I'll be able to vote wherever I am. My preference is actually electronic voting.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but they will tell you that, somebody can tinker with it. But somebody is not tinkering with your bank account. Which one would I rather tinker with if I have capacity to hack?
Do that.
It's your bank app.
Well, good point.
Yes.
But I want us to also talk. So, what's the manifesto of your party, for instance?
So, our manifesto is in twofold.
Okay.
The manifesto itself as to what we intend to do and the pillars of the manifesto. And I'll talk about the pillars of the manifesto. The first is national security. Second is sustainable growth. And third is self-sufficiency. That we no longer rely on other countries to feed, to build our roads for us, to even build apps. Did you know that some of the apps we use in this country are built in Kenya?
Wow.
So what does that take you?
And we have smart people.
Plenty of them. the guys we call Yahoo guys, if they have opportunity to build apps, they will do a better job than, because of course doing Yahoo is going to be out of business very soon because everybody's going to be smart. So but moving away from that is that you must now understand that there is new economic model around sustainability in the world that has got nothing to do with what we are practicing. Our entire economic system is what they call black economy. It involves crime, corruption, lack of transparency. Opacity. And the blackest thing, opacity, blackest thing there is what is driving the economy, crude. Yes.
Crude.
So, but with the new economic models that are based on sustainability, we now have what we call orange and yellow economy, the biggest in the world that nobody even know about here. And that's entertainment, sports, creativity, artificial intelligence.
And we have a lot of...
And we have it. So you invest in that area, forget about crude. Yes.
Interesting point.
Yes. But the second is green economy, which is more sustainable, transitioning away from crude, fossil fuel. You now have very sustainable, ways of generating electricity. You break down your grid. But beyond that, I can now generate, we should be able under that system, generate electricity and make it an economic powerhouse. And wait to hear why and how. Is that if you have roof and you can generate more than you can use, I can buy from you into a grid. So you become a retailer. So you can sit in your house, tell somebody, you can get and take a loan and build enough power on your roof and sell into the grid. But I'm going to break up the national grid. We will have mini grids everywhere. So if your grid is going to take care of your streets, so be it. It's going to be regulated, no doubt, so that people will not take advantage.
Now states can regulate.
Yes, states, local governments can now have their own electricity grids and generation power. Villages can decide to grow electricity using solar, biogas. Even the herdsmen that we so much talk about can help us generate electricity. What we need to do is to make sure they go somewhere and collect the poop of their cows, turn it into biogas.
Yeah, that's
and I can give you 1,000 megawatts of electricity because as president of Nigeria, I'm not going to allow herdsmen to be roaming about. You create their own ecosystem where they can rear their cows, the children can go to school.
Like a ranch.
Ranch, yes, ranching system. And then you'll be using it. You see, part of what the leaders of Nigeria don't understand is that anywhere there's resource, there'll be crime.
Yeah. Okay, so...
And that's why meat is like $10 billion industry.
Yeah.
Anybody will kill for it.
Yeah, I mean, look at a country like Brazil, But I wanted to ask one more last question because before we finish, I want to talk about insecurity. Insecurity is a big deal. I want to know, what will you do differently? For instance, what in your view hasn't been done?
What hasn't been done is, one, short term. We are living in the past when it comes to how to fight insecurity or to even run a military or security agency. Why am I saying that? You and I live in New York City.
Yeah.
Go and look at the website or just do Google search of New York, the NYPD. How many cars do they have? How many helicopters do they have?
Yeah.
They have horses that they are using in fighting crime. But forget about it. They are now building drones to fight crime.
Now look at what Ukraine is doing. Actually.
It's not Ukraine alone.
Yeah.
Iran, and Israel, their first 12 days war put an end to the Air Force system. If you like now, go and be flying your F something around. Iran sat down in their house. You say they don't have a Navy, they don't have an Air Force. They have been fighting the US for how long now?
Yeah.
You can't defeat them because they were smart enough through education to have trained scientists who are working with Russia, China, including Ukraine, to build drones that have far-reaching impact. I cannot believe that in 2026, children are kidnapped from Oyo State. You don't have a drone that is staying on top of every forest there. At night, you detect them through infrared, technology.
Yeah.
As they are moving, you'll be able to, encircle them. But here we are. Everybody in Oyo State is praying, including teachers who were kidnapped. That's why I said, and it's important for you to know, I won't have a Minister of Defense. I will appoint a drone as my Minister of Defense. As long as he does the defense of the country, so be it.
We need somebody will have to be in charge of the drone.
You can just sit in a porter cabin somewhere.
Somebody will have to do that.
That's not going to be the Minister of Defense. Okay. The Minister of Defense will be the drone that is doing the job.
Interesting.
And I can have as many as you can.
So your view is that we haven't used.
We have not evolved.
Do you think?
But beyond that, which is the last thing, is that even if you have the best security in the world, you must fix the economic system in a way that your country does not become the capital of inequality in the world. There's no amount of drones that can fight against crime in a country where there's inequality, poverty, and starvation like we have. Miserable wages. That is what produce the recruits for the bandits, the kidnappers. So overall, you must address an economic system that provides equality and gives everybody something to hold on to
look up to.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you so much. Time is fast spent. Quite an exciting conversation, and I'm sure that as we head to the election, we will have more opportunities to talk some more. I must congratulate you on your nomination, and I do wish that I have a passion that we need to change Nigeria's politics. One way or another.
Absolutely.
It's becoming personalized and personalized and personalized.
I think it's even harder for people like you and I who spend time outside.
Yeah.
And to know that low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. People don't understand that. Oh no, you start with the government and you should be talking like that. I said, look, I was completely disappointed.
Probably depressed every day.
This is my way out of depression, by the way.
It's your antidepressant.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Sowore. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for the courage that you have demonstrated, and I wish you all the best in your presidential campaign.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And then you have it, the segment Inside Sources. Will be right back.